was born, actually in 1966. I was born in California, Los Angeles. My dad was in the military, and so we traveled around a lot. I remember spending time, I was born in California, spent time in San Antonio in Texas because my mom was from here. And let's see, Maryland, Germany, Oklahoma. I think those are the only ones I can remember right now.
Did you like Germany?
I did, yeah. Germany was nice. And had 3 sisters. I am the second oldest, and we're pretty close-knit family, and very traditional family. My dad worked, mom stayed home, snacks after school, fresh cookies and stuff after school. So it's very much, I guess, your typical American dream kind of upbringing. Yeah.
What higher education did you actually go to? What colleges you attended?
I attended St. Philip's initially. I have an associate's in nutrition and dietetic technology, which is basically diet counseling from here. Then I got involved in the community and started working in different aspects, and came back here to do a presentation to a class. And another classmate was doing was working for a nonprofit. They were doing nutrition education in the schools, and I fell in love with that. And so I went and applied. I applied for it took me forever to get hired. And so I worked there for a while, and then when that grant ran out, I ended up getting a job working for the city as a social worker. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, helping people. And so I went back to school and got a bachelor's in social work, and now I just finished a master's in counseling about 4 years ago.
So basically your business is helping people.
Yes. Yes. Oh, you asked the schools. I came here to St. Philip's. I got my bachelor's and my master's from Wayland Baptist University.
Wayland Baptist. Where's that at?
Yeah, they have a satellite campus here.
Okay.
And so I went to the campus here. I can't remember where the main campus is.
So what made you want to tell your story? What brought you here, other than Facebook?
I think it needs to be told. I try to stay involved in the community. The black population here is very small in San Antonio, and I don't think we're vocal enough. I don't think we share enough. I think because of that, a lot of our young people are unfamiliar with the stories and the history. I actually work in a school, and I've heard parents, and I guess it's for me, I've heard parents make comments. I think when the movie The Help came out, our church went as a group to see it, and some people didn't bring their kids, and I heard one lady say she didn't bring her daughter because she didn't want her to know that about racism. She didn't want her to see any of that. And then when the whole Trayvon Martin thing happened, we had a rally here, and I went to the rally, and I heard a young African-American female, probably about 24, say that she thought that racism was dead. And so, yeah, she's like, well, this only happens in my parents' time. And I'm like her parents' age, and I was like, no, it's still going on. It's a little more subtle, but it still happens.
So, what's like the earliest experience you had with racism that you can remember?
Probably being in school. Growing up on military bases, a lot of times we were the only kids there, and I was already an awkward child. I was very thin, I was a bookworm, I was a nerd. And just kind of standing out and feeling different, and having people talk about my hair and talk about my skin color and being what they consider dark skin. So probably growing up, from all throughout elementary, I even tell the kids now I work at a middle school. Middle school was horrible for me. I absolutely hated middle school. And but it was because I felt like people were picking on me all the time. I had a huge afro. And so it was really weird growing up in a culture that wasn't mine, looking the way I looked. Yeah.
I can definitely empathize with that. So going back to like middle school, how did you think that how did that make you feel?
It affected my self-esteem. I think even to this day, it still affects my self-esteem. So even though I've gotten to the point where I feel like I know who I am and I'm very confident in who I am at this point, there's still moments that it's always in the back of my head that you're not good enough, that you're different. And because you're different, that's not, there's something wrong with you. And at the same time, when I talk to my kids at school, those are the kids I gravitate toward. The ones who look like they're struggling because their hair is short, and so they're not wearing the long weaves, and so other kids are picking on them because of that, or because they're darker skinned. And I hear the kids say that. The school I work at is Martin Luther King Academy, and so of course the demographics is probably in San Antonio half African American, half Hispanic. But just to hear the kids, even the black kids, when they're bullying each other, that's what they're talking about. You're dark skinned, you're bald headed, and that frustrates me. I don't want to say it angers me, but it frustrates me. It makes me sad. And so I try to instill in them, especially little girls, that they're beautiful just the way they are. And we have middle school kids that have beautiful, natural, curly hair, but they're happy only when they straighten it. Like at the end of the year, we have different things to straighten their hair. And I say, well, it looks nice. And I told one girl, because her hair was absolutely amazing, and I said, okay, I understand. But I said, I promise you in 10 years, you're going to absolutely love that look. But her self-esteem was just to the point where she felt like, and I think she was mixed race. And so I think she was rejected by her dad, rejected by her mom's family. And her dad was African American, mom was Hispanic. And so she struggled a lot with her identity. And that kind of stuff bothers me, because if nothing else, I want everyone, really, not just our kids, but everyone, to feel proud of who they are, who God created them to be. And I think our society, so much with all the print media and everything, the songs and the videos and everything, it sends such a negative message, and people don't even realize that they're receiving that message. At least our kids don't.
Exactly. That's so true. That's so true. Going back to, or kind of moving forward to where we're at now, how did you overcome something? I mean, in middle school, I had the same problems. So how did you overcome that?
I focused on me, and I focused on just kind of, I figured out what my strong points were, and I just kind of excelled at those things. I love to read, I love to study, I love to help other people. And so I just kind of immersed myself in that and got to the point where I didn't pay attention to what other kids said. But at the same time, I isolated myself a lot. And so I didn't have a lot of friends, stayed away from crowds, and I kind of became a loner. And that's actually sustained stuff even today. But it's more of a positive thing now. Back then, I think it was a negative. Now I'm by myself, and I think it made me, I'm at the point now where I'm okay by myself. I don't need a lot of people around me. I don't need to be in a crowd. I don't need to wait for other people to go do something. Because I guess all my life I've just kind of done it on my own. Because I insulated myself pretty much. So.
You're very strong, I can definitely tell. Can you tell me about another experience that kind of affected you, like heavy, maybe in like work or?
In work, I would say it was probably the first place I worked. I don't know if I can say the place, but it was a nonprofit, and we were doing nutrition education for minority communities. At the same time, it was a very small place, and so I was the only African American there. And I remember after being there for a few months, having a conversation with some of the people, and they said, and their question was, how come you don't act like the rest of them? And I was like, what does that mean? The rest of who? And they said, the rest of the black people. They said, you're not loud, you're not ghetto. And that was the word they used. They talked about the way I dressed and just how I was so different from the rest of them. And they felt comfortable, more comfortable around me because of that. And so.
And how did that make you feel?
I was offended. I was very much offended. Just knowing that they are judging basically my race based on a few stereotypes that they're seeing, either from TV or from maybe an experience they had in the past, and to lump everybody in that category. And it was almost like they were trying to make me feel better about, like, elevate me at the expense of my culture and my people. And that was not a compliment. They thought it was a compliment, but it wasn't a compliment. So.
I'm so sorry. There's questions for us to ask, but you're answering every single question with like one stroke. It's like this. So I'm gonna try to move onward a little bit. So, do you have another event that impacted your life that you talk about?
Not a lot, and I think it's because I've gotten to the point, and maybe it's because I'm a counselor, because of what I do, I see things differently, and so I'm not easily offended by a lot of things people say, because I think there's always a reason behind why they say it. I think a lot of times people speak from their experiences, they speak from based on their own personal experience. They live out of their reality. Everyone kind of lives in their own little bubble, and they live out of their reality. And so when they say things, because I've had people say, when I start wearing my hair like this, can I touch it? And I've told friends that, and friends get upset. And they're like, well, what did you say? And I say, it was no big deal, because usually it was an older person. I do have one I just thought about. I worked at a nursing home. And it was an older white lady who retired military. And this white lady kept calling me colored. And all the terms that people use, the N-word, of course, bothers me, but Negro, things like that don't bother me, but colored bother me. But at the same time, I have to say, things she's coming from probably the 30s, the 20s. For her, it was a compliment. She would say, you're a pretty, very pretty colored girl. And I would say the first time she said it, it was like the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. And it kind of surprised me and shocked me. And when I told a friend, she got really upset about it. And she wanted to go, and of course, speak to the lady. I was like, well, she's older. And I said, and like I said, that helped me realize that people kind of speak from their own context. She wasn't trying to be offensive, but it was very offensive. And even now, every time I hear that particular word, colored, it just seems really ugly to me. Really, really ugly. It's kind of right there with that other N-word. and so that one probably, that shocked me. I never heard anyone call me that before.
That's crazy. Yeah. Colored. So she's ex-militarian.
Yeah, she was a military officer. Yeah.
Military officer, probably grew up in the 60s and just took that word and took to the military, came back and just expected it to be accepted still. Wow.
And in her world, it's not offensive, because at the same token, I went to incarnate work for a brief period. And it was the same thing. It was a young lady from a town named Bernie, which is not too far from here, a little country town. And she said the same thing. We were hanging out, having a great time, and then she said, there are not a lot of colored people in my town, in my city. And the first thing I thought, because for me, when I hear it now, it's a word that a racist would use. That's how I see it. Someone who's truly racist. And to have that come from someone that I've been hanging out with was not pleasant. And I will admit, I kind of backed up from that friendship a little bit after that. And I don't think she meant any harm, but it was like, so if that's the word you use, what ideas do you actually have about people of color? That you would use that word and think it's okay to use that word?
What word would you rather them use to describe us?
I'm good with Black or African American.
General.
Yes.
Up to date.
Yes.
Yeah, that's crazy. So after hearing that word colored, what was your idea of racism?
That is definitely not dead. That is definitely still very prevalent. Sometimes I think it is subconscious based on how we're brought up. Like the young lady who used it, I'm sure in her time there were no black people. And so whatever word she heard other people using to refer to us became her norm. And so I don't think she intended to be offensive. I don't even think she knew it was offensive. But I'm sure she heard her parents say it and other people say it, and so she assumed it was okay to use it. And it definitely was not, at least not for me. Maybe it's okay for some other people, but not for me. So, yeah.
Do you have a lot of friends that aren't the same race as you?
I do. I do, yeah. Most of my friends. I'm a very eclectic group. I tend to compartmentalize my life. I, of course, go to church, black church. I like to do different things. One of my passions is salsa dancing. And so, of course, there's not a lot of black people who do that. Here in this city, I found a group. So there's a group of us that go, and it's like 3 black guys, myself, and 2 Hispanic women. And then anything else, I just kind of go do it. And I make friends doing what I do. I don't really, I know I don't like it when they say it, but I don't really look at color a lot. If we have the same interests, then I consider you a friend. So, but yeah, I do have lots of friends that are not African
I can tell. Like, I feel like your energy is very gravitational, so you would have friends of different cultures, just because like you have that kind of spirit in you to just make more friends. I feel. Um, that had nothing to do with it. I could just tell like you're just a good person, but.
And I will say, adding to that, at the same time, I'm very proud of my race. And I think people mistake that because my friends, because I don't hang out just with black people and just in the black culture, I think they misinterpret that. But I'm very, very, very proud of my race and my people, and will become highly offensive and defensive if you attack. So yeah.
And I feel like people can possibly take advantage of that sort of thing if you're not defensive, if you don't stand up, and they would start using different words around you to see what they can get away with. So I definitely see that you're strong. You're like, okay, wait a minute, like, but at the same time, like, you're such a genuine person that you have that spirit that people might try to run over, some sort of thing, but I feel like it's kind of like me, like I'm projecting maybe. Maybe I'm projecting, but I'll ask some genuine questions. Because I really like hearing about like your stories.
Well, the community I live in, the school I work at now, like I said, is initially when I started at the job that I have now, because I'm a counselor, and we go in and work with underserved communities. When I first took the job, they put me at a charter school, which was fine. There was someone else at the school I wanted, which was on the east side, which is a black school. It wasn't even the school I'm at now, it was a different school. But the person who was at the school I was at now was not African American, was not Hispanic, and it was a struggle for her, I guess, so she left and did not come back after spring break. And we were at a luncheon. Like I said, I think I was the only African American there, and they started talking about the school and why she left. And in the process, they started talking about the community in a very negative way. And not only do I work there, my parents live not far from there, and I live right up the street from my parents. So to hear them talking about the kids and their families and their situations in such a negative light, I became upset. And I started to challenge them on some of the things that were being said. And I think it made them very uncomfortable, because they weren't expecting it. And right after that luncheon, they actually asked me if I would transfer over to the school. And that's how I got, that was all a God thing as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. So I've been at the school for like 3 years now. But yeah, so because even here, the east side of San Antonio kind of gets a bad rap. And like I said, I think people don't understand that. We talk about institutional racism and things of that nature and how things all kind of work out. And so people only can do what they know with the tools that they have. And if they weren't taught any better, they don't know to do any better. And so, in my opinion, you go and you teach them to do better. And so, listening to that negativity when they talked about the community, and even now, they don't say anything real negative about them anymore. I don't think I'm rude, I just challenge them on some of their ideals when they make certain comments.
And you say God brought you to that campus.
I believe so.
Very powerful. Honestly, he did. Honestly. That was beautiful. So you said you've been there 3 years. Can you talk about some experiences you had with the kids there?
A lot of our kids are coming from not so good situations. They're I had one little boy just left the campus, but he saw his dad murdered. He was 7 years old in first grade, but he seen his dad murdered. And when I spoke to Mom about that situation, it turned out that he had also been molested. The little boy had also been molested, and so he was a very sweet little boy. But he's very smart, but he struggled socially, of course, and so that's why I was seeing him. His mom was in and out of jail, and recently he was being raised by another family member. I guess she came out, they got into an argument, so she now has pulled him out of school. So I don't know where he is, I don't know what's going on with him, and I'm concerned about that. But a lot of the kids are growing up living with grandparents. A lot of them are growing up with parents in and out of jail. A lot of them are growing up with very young parents. We are kinder through 8th grade school. And so a lot of the kids I do see are younger, but even to listen to them sometimes talk about their parents going in and out of jail like it's normal. And it's really strange for a lot of people. And knowing, and our campus is very, very small. We only have 325 kids, which makes it more of a family. And even the teachers seem to be almost, they're not just teachers, they're almost second parents to a lot of the kids. And so the way they talk to them is a lot different than you would find in a regular school. And that, I think that's one of the challenges other people have when they come and they try to work there. Because they're like, I don't understand when you talk to the kids like that. But it works. It works. And because they don't necessarily have the support system, they don't necessarily have the tools. Like I said, I grew up very middle class. I grew up very much safe, very much insulated. And I think when I realized that everybody didn't grow up like me is when I decided I wanted to go and try to help. Not that I'm any better, not that I have all the answers, but just to be able to provide some kind of support, a little bit of the support that I received, and let them know that someone believes in them and they can live past the confines of their environment. There's a middle school student there who told me she wanted to be a doctor, and she has a plan. She knows exactly where she's going, how she's going to do it, everything. And she was crying in the hallway, so they brought her to me. And I don't know what had happened that day, but she was saying that she didn't fit in. She felt like she didn't fit in because everyone else was focused on boys, and she's not focused on boys because she's focused on school. She then began to say that she wanted to be a doctor, but she didn't think she could. And when I asked her why, she said because they don't have any money and because of where she lived. And so just the fact that she didn't know that there are resources out there for her because of her situation, because you're being raised by your grandmother, because your mom's in jail, because your dad's not around. You can get money for all that stuff. And knowing that she didn't know that and being able to help her figure that out is kind of why I wanted to do what I do. So like I said, I don't have all the answers. I just want to give them some of the tools that people gave me. And so.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I was actually going to ask, how do you think that you can help it? Clearly, you figured it out as a second parent to these kids. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Sorry, I have a question, but I want you to direct it at Miami to answer. Since you work in the educational system, how do you see institutionalized like racism, and then how do you think we could work on it?
San Antonio? In the educational system, I think that here in Texas, I don't know if it's everywhere. All my experience has been here. The testing system, the way they test kids. They want to give these tests, and they want to use these tests to judge whether or not you're a success. And I don't think that's a good way to do it, mainly because everybody is different. Everybody has different gifts and talents and different abilities, and they all have a different path. Also, they don't give the kids the same resources. My thing is, if you give them all the same resources, then you can give them all the same test. And they don't do that. A lot of times, the kids in the, I call them underserved communities, not only do they not have the same resources, they don't get to take books home. My daughter went to what we consider the black high school here in San Antonio. And I asked her one day, how come you never bring any books home? They don't let them bring books. They didn't have books. And I'm thinking, how do you go to school and not have books? But I know my friends who have kids on the north side were bringing home backpacks full of stuff. And so I just think that the institutionalized racism as it relates to education is that it's just not a fair playing field. And I think our kids get shortchanged a lot. The kids in underserved communities, they get shortchanged a lot. They don't get the same books. They don't. A lot of times the teachers come in from programs like Teach for America, which is not a bad program, but they're not experienced teachers. And so you're getting teachers who may not be as experienced, or you're getting information that's outdated, or that's, like I said, or you just don't have enough. So they can't take stuff home and study. They can't take stuff home and do homework. And that's how you learn. That's how you learn. I think at our school, a lot of our kids come in behind. They don't come in on level because their parents are either working or doing whatever they have to do, so maybe they're not working with them between the ages of 2 and 4 to prepare them for school. And as a result, they may need a lot bigger push when they're younger, when they do come in kindergarten. And so that needs to be taken care of course, on the parent side and on the community side. I would say the community side. A lot of our parents, I think, need help. Just parenting. I used to teach parenting classes. classes, so I'm a big advocate for parity. We do what we know to do. We do what we were taught to do. We do what our parents did. But society is different, our people are different. And so I think some of that needs to be tweaked a little bit. And it's not just about being punitive all the time. And I think that happens too much, where it's always punitive. And you hear people say, well, talk to your kid. And of course, our culture says you don't talk to him, you just discipline him. And that's true, but you still have to talk to them and build those relationships and that foundation with the kids. But I don't know if I answered your question. I hope I did. But did I answer your question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think everything is very uneven. It's very uneven. And I always go back to you give them the same resources and you give them the same test and we'll all be fine. But until you do that, it's not fair to give them that test.
What's separating the white and black high school in San Antonio? What's the separation? Why is that considered the black high school?
Because of where it's located. It's located on the east side of the city, and so it's considered a black school. Because I guess back in the day, even back, because I went there, and when I went there, that's what it was. It was probably 80%, 80 to 90% African American because of the community. The east side of San Antonio used to be the black side of the community. People got money, decided they wanted to do better, so they moved northeast. And so now it's about, like I said, the same as the school I'm at. It's about 50-50 now. But it's still considered the black school because they're the ones with the black band that dances and all that kind of stuff. So yeah.
So it's an HBC high school?
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much.
Do you have any more questions, Candy? Because this is a really good interview.
Mm-hmm.
Really
but she's been going for a minute. And then we have, this is 22 minutes right here. Then we have like other tape. One was 12 minutes. And then the other one was like 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any more stories about your job? And because these are like gems.
Also, bring your mic up a little bit. There you go.
About my job? No, I mean, just general stuff. I know when I decided to work in the community, of course, looking for nonprofits, I always tried to find places that work with, they would always say things like it's a diverse, looking for a diverse workforce. Mm-hmm. And in San Antonio, because we are such a largely Hispanic community, that's generally what it meant. So generally, I was the only African American ever working anywhere. And anytime I did that, I always had to fight. Even when we did the health education for that program, it started off as a Hispanic program, but they were serving the Hispanic community. And when they decided to advance to the east side, they were going to take the same information and take it to the east side. And I remember approaching our director and saying, hey, it's a great idea, but I think you're going to have to change some of the content. Because they were still, because when I said it was relevant, Like the foods they talked about were tacos and rice and chalupas and things like that. And I said, and that's fine, but we don't necessarily eat that. And so he was good enough to allow us to change it. So we were able to tailor that book for that. And I'm trying to think what else would work. I would apply for a job one time. And I was right out of high school and I called and applied for a job. And I called them before I went. And I asked them if the position was still open. And she said yes. And so I got in my car and I ran over there. I was there probably less than 30 minutes. And when I walked through the door, she literally looked at me and said, the position's been filled. Yeah. And because I was so young, I was like, okay, thank you. And I walked out. And the more I thought about it after the fact, I was like, wait a minute. So yeah.
I can relate to a lot with what you're saying. So how did it make you feel after that?
When I thought about it after the fact, well, I was stunned when it happened. I was kind of surprised. When I thought about it afterwards, I became angry. I really wished, what I wished I would have done is to have one of my friends who wasn't black go in and see what they did. And thinking that they probably would have given her an application, and then I would have probably sued them. But yeah. But I didn't think about it at the time. Because I think I was kind of shocked that it happened. And at that point, I'd been looking for work. It was more about just finding a job at that point. And so I didn't think about it until later.
That's a good solution, I would say, is to investigate, because that is a lawsuit, if anything. So, yeah, that's a really good solution. I was gonna ask, what would you have done? So you just answered that question. Yeah.
I have another question. How has this experience changed how you view white people? Like your experiences with racism? Like, has it jaded, like, not jaded you, but like kind of, because I know me, like with my, like, sometimes things go on, I have to tell myself not to feel a type of way about all white people. So, like, how has your experiences made you feel about, like?
Overall, it hasn't changed a lot. I don't think that all the people are bad. There are times when I hear certain things or see certain things, it kind of goes up like a radar, like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But for the most part, I give people a benefit of the doubt. And so you may get one turn, but if it becomes a pattern and it keeps happening, then okay. But for the most part, it hasn't changed. And even here, living in Texas with all the cowboys and things like that. And recently I went to visit my daughter in Wyoming. She lives in Wyoming. And everyone was really, really, really nice. Everybody was really, really, really nice. And I was concerned when she moved up there, because they were one of very few African Americans up there. And she told me that they were really, really nice people. So, but overall it hasn't changed, because I still try to view people individually, give you the benefit of the doubt until you prove me otherwise. So, yeah.
I think we hit everything.
I think so too. Could you talk about your spiritual impact?
Spiritual impact? I'm very spiritual. I believe everything is, in my life is God-led. I am even dealing with racism, because our pastor has actually done sessions. He's done like panels and things at the church on racism, police brutality, all those kind of things. And that's good. I think we need, because as a Christian, I think you do have to try to be open and forgiving toward people, knowing that, like I said, a lot of times, and as a counselor, people come from hurt. A lot of things people do come from a place of hurt, and a place of brokenness. And I think as Christians, we're supposed to be, we're not supposed to be pushovers, but we are supposed to be loving and kind and forgiving, and give people a little bit. I tell people, you have to give people a little bit of the grace that God gives you, because we get a lot of grace from Him, and we don't give enough to other people. And sometimes you just give them just a little bit of that, and it might change how you deal with people and how you see people.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.